So there was celebration yesterday. Confetti was thrown, champagne was poured, tears of joy were wept when the actress Ellen Page revealed that she is a man named Elliot. Yes, apparently it seems Ellen Page, who has been a woman for 33 years of life, is actually a man, she says. And for this urgent news bulletin, as always, we'll go to People magazine. Here's their report.
Elliot Page is living his truth and coming out as transgender. Page, formerly known as Ellen, released a heartfelt statement on Twitter Tuesday, writing in part, quote, "I want to share with you that I am trans. My pronouns are he, they, and my name is Elliot." Page added, "I feel lucky to be writing this, to be here, to have arrived at this place in my life." The 33-year-old, known for his Oscar-nominated role in the film Juno, goes on to express overwhelming gratitude for those who have supported his journey, adding, quote, "I can't begin to express how remarkable it feels to finally love who I am enough to pursue my authentic self." Page also asks fans for patience in the statement, explaining that his joy is fragile and that he is scared of invasiveness, hate, jokes, and violence. He also addresses the discrimination against the trans community, calling it insidious and cruel, resulting in horrific consequences. According to Page's post, in 2020 alone, it has been reported that at least 40 transgender people have been murdered. He adds that the majority of those victims have been Black and Latinx trans women. Page also calls out political leaders who continue to criminalize trans healthcare and deny individuals their right to exist. He states that those who spew hostility towards the trans community have blood on their hands, because 40% of trans adults report attempting suicide. Page goes on to directly address trans people who deal with a, quote, "threat of violence every day," saying he sees and loves them, and promises that he will do everything he can to change this world for the better. Last year, Page revealed that he married dancer Emma Portner, who reposted this statement on her Instagram Tuesday, writing in the caption that she is proud of Page and calling his existence a gift in and of itself.
Okay, everything you heard at the end there was completely false. Actually, it was all completely false, especially the part where she said her authentic self is a man. But the claim that trans people are the victim of a hate crime epidemic has simply no evidence to support it. There is a similar lack of evidence to support the claim that healthcare for trans people is being criminalized and that trans people are being denied the right to exist. There's only one group of people in this country who are denied the right to exist, and they're still in the womb. The pro-abortion Page doesn't care about that group, though, of course. She'd rather fight imaginary injustices than real ones. Speaking of imaginary, especially imaginary injustices, you may recall a couple of years ago, Ellen Page on TV with Stephen Colbert blaming Mike Pence for the hate crime that Jussie Smollett committed against himself. It's worth revisiting that rant, I think, because it raises an interesting question. Listen.
I'm like really fired up tonight.
This is how you have to be fired up.
It feels impossible to not feel this way right now with
the
president and the vice president, Mike Pence, who wishes I couldn't be married. Let's just be clear. The vice president of America wishes I didn't have the love with my wife. He wanted to ban that in Indiana. He believes in conversion therapy. He has hurt LGBTQ people so badly as the government of Indiana, and I think the thing we need to know, and I hope my show Gaycation did this, in terms of connecting the dots, in terms of what happened the other day to Jussie. I don't know him personally. I send all of my love. Connect the dots. This is what happens. If you are in a position of power and you hate people and you want to cause suffering to them, you go through the trouble. You spend your career trying to cause suffering. What do you think is going to happen? Kids are going to be abused, and they're going to kill themselves. And people are going to be beaten on the street. I have traveled the world, and I have met the most marginalized people you can meet. I am lucky to have this time and the privilege to say this. This needs to stop.
Okay, leaving aside the rather stupefying fact that Ellen Page was somehow trying to blame the vice president for the fact that two imaginary men beat up an actor in Chicago while he was walking a subway at 2 a.m. in sub-zero temperatures, we do have to ask one question. Ellen Page was referring to her own same-sex lesbian marriage to another woman. Now, with this revelation that she's a man named Elliot, does that mean she was never really a lesbian? Was she a straight white male this whole time? And if so, does that mean a straight white male was playing all those roles in all those films that should have gone to real women? Does she have to give back all of the awards she's received for best female lead in a film? Well, maybe all of the awards overstates it a little bit, but she has won a couple of awards, I think, at least. Do those get returned? Or did she just become a man now? If so, how did that happen? And if she did just become a man, doesn't that mean she actually changed her sexual orientation, going from gay to straight? Isn't that impossible? Haven't we been told that's impossible? By the way, mere nanoseconds after Page made the announcement, her Wikipedia pages and IMDb pages had been changed immediately to include the new pronouns. Lightning speed, this change was made. Creepy enough, but to make things weirder, Page's Wikipedia page now, if you go and check it out, identifies her as a gay man married to a woman. Does that make sense? How does it make sense? These are just a few of the questions that those who promote left-wing gender theory, the theory that makes it possible, allegedly, for Ellen Page to become a man, or be a man, or to have always been a man while also being a woman, cannot answer, will not answer. We're meant to simply accept that this woman is a man, even though nobody who makes the claim, including Ellen herself, can offer any explanation of it. They cannot tell you when she became a man, how she became a man, how any of this is possible scientifically or logically. In fact, the people making the claim cannot even so much as explain what the claim actually is. Think about that for a moment. Ellen Page says she's a man. Okay. What does she mean by that? With all these people announcing that they're really a gender other than the one that they were, quote, assigned at birth, the crazy thing is that nobody ever stops to ask the simplest, most basic question. What do you mean? What do you mean? That's a fair question, isn't it? It's not a transphobic question or a question that otherizes anyone or denies anyone the right to exist. It's also not a question that shuts anyone down or shouts them down or censors them. Quite the opposite. This is a question that seeks to understand, that seeks even to take the claim seriously. But I cannot understand you or take you seriously if I don't even know what you mean. So Ellen Page says she's a man. All right. What do you mean, Ellen or Elliot? What do you mean that you're a man? In what sense are you a man? How do you define the word man? What is a man? I'm a man myself, always have been as far as I know. And it's clear that Ellen Page is not exactly like me. I mean, you could look at Ellen Page and look at me and say, well, there's a very clear difference here. There's even a difference of kind, of category, it would seem. There are a number of very significant differences between the two of us, differences that go all the way down to the level of DNA, chromosomes, reproductive capabilities, bone structure, muscle mass, etc. It seems that we're both humans, certainly, but different kinds of humans, different categories of human. Now, you say now we're the same kind, the same category. Well, again, then what kind is that? Explain that kind. Define the category. And it does no good to say that the word man is fluid or an artificial construct or that it has no fixed meaning, because if that's the case, then it doesn't mean anything to identify yourself as one. You may as well still call yourself a woman then, because the words don't mean anything. You can't very well insist that your identity as this particular thing is important and fundamental and we all have to respect it, and also insist that this particular thing has no meaning and could be anything and is nothing but a social construct. You do see how those two propositions are in direct contradiction, don't you? See, I want to understand you. I do. I just need you to explain what you mean in a way that's coherent. No, it's not that you owe me specifically an explanation, but if you want to be understood, then you have to explain what you're saying. If you don't want to be understood, then what's the point of making the announcement in the first place? You know, I could stand up in front of the whole world and say, everyone, I want you to know I am a who's-he what's-it. That's what I am. That's how I identify. If I were to say that, the immediate response from the world would be, you're a what now? What's that? What's a who's-he what's-it? What do you mean? I can't very well then respond, well, I don't owe you an explanation. Stay out of my business. I'm the one who brought it up. The world didn't bring it up, I did. The world is just trying to understand what the hell I'm talking about. But of course, when it comes to a woman saying she's a man or a man saying he's a woman, no one ever explains what's that supposed to mean. Nobody ever explains anything related to left-wing gender theory, a theory that, as we've covered on this show, was invented about 70 years ago by a lunatic child abuser named John Money, who experimented on two young boys and caused them both to kill themselves. He's the guy who came up with most of what the left says about gender today, including the idea that a person can have a gender that is at odds with their biological sex. He came up with it. This is his idea. We are meant now to simply accept and believe and parrot these ideas, even if they make no sense. And even if the people making the claim cannot themselves make sense of it. Does it matter, though? That's the other question. Should we care? You know, many on the right realize that left-wing gender theory is nonsense. They realize that men are not women and women are not men. They realize that this preferred pronoun stuff is absurd. You know, they realize that you cannot claim your own pronouns for yourself any more than you can claim your own nouns or prepositions or your own adverbs. Doesn't make any sense. Grammar doesn't work that way. Language doesn't work that way. They realize all of this, but they retreat from the battle over these ideas, crawling under their beds to hide while murmuring something about how this is all a sideshow and it doesn't matter. That is the rationalization of a coward. Yes, it matters. The truth matters. The truth, in fact, is all that matters. It's the only thing that matters. I don't care about anything else but the truth. And I don't care to spend my time defending anything else but the truth. The left's gender ideology is, among many other things, all of them bad, a direct assault on the truth. They want to deny basic truth, to build a culture that denies it, to force you to deny it. And that matters. It matters a lot. It's also an assault on children, our children, your children. Gender confusion is an epidemic among kids today. Many lives are being destroyed by it. We talked about this last week as well. You know, we've talked about this many times because it matters. Other conservatives and many other conservatives with platforms pretend it doesn't matter, but it does. The left wants to infuse confusion into your child's mind. They want to rob your child of his understanding of himself. They're trying to take from him what is most basic, most essential, most needed for a happy and healthy life. Does that matter? I can think of very few things that matter more. So yes, we do need to say, it is important to say, that Ellen Page can change her name. Fine, she's Elliot now. That's fair. You can be whatever name you want to be. But she cannot be a man. She's not a man. She will never be one. And I say that not because I'm trying to hurt her feelings or deny her right to exist, but just because it's true. And the truth matters. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.